The future is now, old man, and apparently the future is going to be in your hands. Yeah, we're going to be basically just getting a huge plethora of information concerning handhelds in the next couple of days. In fact, probably right now, today, as you're watching this, Nintendo is in fact doing their Switch 2 Direct, or it already happened. And then, of course, the day before yesterday and yesterday as well, there were some other tweets happening as well concerning Asus, Microsoft, and the new handheld that Asus is in fact developing. Now, we are going to talk about some concerns that I have with Asus, specifically the new handheld and where I think it should be priced, but also the fact that Project Keenan is basically coming to fruition from the article we saw previously from Jez Corden. You see, Asus tweeted this out 2 days ago, where they talked about having a new handheld device. You saw a controller and the ROG Ally kind of like spin into a little tube with a robot. It looked really cute and funny. And then it was like, whoa, we're gonna go into the future. But the thing is, though, the part that everybody's talking about is the fact that Xbox Twitter account made this little side-eye tweet, kind of like a little bit of a meme there. And then on top of that, the Windows Twitter account tweeted, "We're ready," right below it. So we've got some offhanded semi-confirmation of something happening between Microsoft, Xbox, and of course Asus with this new handheld. Now let's talk about what I could conceive as some problems here. Asus Armory Crate. I don't even like it on my motherboards. In fact, I kind of avoid buying Asus Mobos because of it, even though I have a tough version. Anything with Armory Crate, I automatically uninstall all the time. It causes more problems than it actually solves. In addition to that, the pricing of the ROG Ally hasn't been the best, honestly, and it's really out of reach for what I would consider to be a good handheld price for a lot of customers and consumers to even approach in the first place. There are some really weird people that want to say, like, I want to spend $1,000 on a handheld. Don't. And then, of course, there's the other massive expose videos done by Gamers Nexus showcasing Asus's horrible return policy, how they try to scam customers out of extra money for damaging products on the way back and then blaming the customer for it, the SD card readers having multiple issues when it first launched, and other things as well. So, we're really not batting 1,000 with using Asus in my personal opinion, but apparently this is where things are going to be going by what we saw with the tweets happening recently. However, though, there's a bigger thing at hand here, because yesterday, Windows Central put out an article that talks about how there's specific lines of code that could possibly lead to a Xbox Big Picture mode, not only inside of handhelds, but it could also lead to it on PC, as well as inside possibly the new Xbox if it does become more PC-like in the future, which I think is going to be the bigger factor in all of this. According to Windows Central and Zach Bowden, the first signs of dedicated Xbox interface for Windows 11 handheld PCs was spotted in the latest preview. References to a full-screen experience that can be booted directly into on startup have been spotted in the latest 10 Windows 11 preview builds, a likely sign of things to come for Windows gaming handhelds. If Microsoft can actually pull this off, and these previews can actually indicate what we're going to be seeing in the future from Xbox, not only on PC, but also on console and handhelds, this could be the ecosystem catalyst that could pull everything together. Honestly, in my opinion, everything basically rides on this. It's not going to work on PC if there isn't a big picture mode for a controller input that's properly used on the Xbox PC app. It's not going to work on consoles if you're not able to actually do what you need to do in terms of using a controller correctly to add new types of applications like Steam, GOG, and etc. onto your console. And it certainly isn't going to work on a handheld if you can't get it right, not have the right touchscreen interface, or provide the right amount of tactile feedback for the customer and consumer to use correctly. There is so much riding on this one kind of big picture mode for Xbox that it truly does kind of question to me, how will Xbox mess it up? Because they're not the best at this, if you kind of catch my drift on that. Like we talked about previously on the Xbox PC app, there are so many things still that need to be fixed on that app before, honestly, a lot of PC gamers can even think to begin to use it in the first place. The fact that it constantly only refreshes when you have it active as a window. The fact that it constantly doesn't have exactly what you're looking for. The way it doesn't provide you proper experiences for what you're looking at, especially compared to Steam. So if Xbox gets this big picture mode handled directly right on Windows specifically, you could in fact just have a better experience overall rather than that really awkward game bar experience that you have when you're trying to use it on your PC, and have a better experience on a handheld device and a console. But let's see what else is going on. It's an open secret at this point, but Microsoft is working to improve Windows 11 on gaming handhelds with a new dedicated interface that will be easier to use with gamepad controls. Now, we have our first signs that this work is currently ongoing internally, as references to a new full screen experience that can be set as a default home experience upon startup have been spotted in the latest Windows 11 preview builds. Spotted by Xenopanther on Blue Sky, the references were found in the latest language pack for an in-development build for Windows 11. The references were found under a new gaming posture choose home app area. The references included a boot into full screen experience at device startup and choose your full screen experience, which might imply that there may be multiple different game focused interfaces to choose from. Windows Central can confirm that both strings are in fact present. There could be a lot of great things happening in the background that we are really going to be experiencing rather soon. This could also be part of the whole UI overhaul that Jez Corden talked about recently concerning Xbox directly on their Series X consoles, that even though gave you an extra button press to get into your game, it provided you more of a community sense and feeling while you were actually inside of the UI, giving you more access to more information and even creating some sort of a community aspect. And I highly suggest, if you want to check out more of it, Jez Corden did a great video about it. It's on his Windows Central YouTube page. But the thing is this, having these kinds of strings there does indicate that Microsoft is in fact taking this a lot more seriously than people had previously expected. Going around and actually creating a boot into this sequence or have this full screen experience active when you immediately start up the system is going to be a good thing overall, because it mimics exactly what we have on the Steam Deck. Now the real question is going to be, one, what is the UI going to look like? How is it going to perform? Will it be snappy enough on the actual hardware? And will I have access to remove out of that full screen experience into a pure desktop mode as well, but still have access to what I need to control? Because the thing is, if you're going to make a handheld PC or even make the next consoles more like PCs, if the experience is only good on one side and not the other, it's not going to make a lot of sense to even do. Why give me the option and ability to create and add more apps and things like that if I can't go ahead and add those shortcuts into the game mode specifically? Steam Deck lets me do that directly. I can add any game, any application, any Flatpak from the desktop or my hard drive on my Steam Deck directly to Steam as a shortcut. And even then, using Steam Grid DB, I can adjust all the icons, the artwork, and even change the titles and the launch properties. These are the things that Xbox needs to focus on specifically, because if Steam can do it, Xbox should be able to do it far better, and so should Microsoft, especially for their Windows versions. The article continues by saying a leaked internal Microsoft hackathon project from 2022 already gives us a rough idea as to the kind of experience the company is likely to be building towards. Users will be given the choice regarding which interface they wish to boot into. Now, if you don't know what a hackathon basically is, it's just an internal event where employees and teams can just come together and try new things to figure out how to make Windows better. A lot of their ideas come from there. Now, that doesn't mean this is going to be the case that it's going to actually look this way, but here are some screenshots from that internal hackathon. Now, this first one, you can kind of see a lot of the influence from the Steam Deck directly. You've got Xbox, Steam, Epic, Battle.net, Edge, itch.io, Discord, and Spotify in this sort of like handheld tablet mode, or sort of like a big picture mode with the ability to access other games as well directly from that main menu, and then a search bar up top. Now, granted, again, this is from the hackathon and not direct screenshots of what we're going to be seeing, so these are mostly just mock-ups and quick things that came together. But you could see this kind of thing happen directly on a tablet format, and that's really what's interesting about this, that back 3 years ago, they were already thinking about doing this and working on that from this event. There's also another screenshot where they sort of like fixed the taskbar on the bottom, and they tried to make everything look a little bit better by using a controller aspect on that as well on this screenshot here, which would have given you a better idea with more of like a upward touch motion to give you access to other things as well if you wanted to use that directly. And this screenshot is kind of like interesting as well, with the rumors recently of Steam being added to Xbox, Xbox could in fact have you ask which is going to be your default launcher when you go ahead and open up your new Xbox handheld or anything like that, or even your Xbox directly. If you want it to be Xbox or Steam or EA Play or Epic, and I'm sure they're going to have Xbox be your main startup launcher, but having this choice would honestly be fantastic, because if you can boot into big picture mode directly from Steam when you start up your Xbox console, or even then completely circumvent anything else and have everything loaded directly, or have the ability to boot in between big picture mode and Xbox big picture mode from each app specifically on the fly, as long as moving everything over and picking each app would be quick and easy to use, there wouldn't be a problem. Now, it'd be pretty easy just to, in my opinion, put everything in quick resume like with each app. So between Xbox, Steam, and Epic, etc., you can just quick resume each app into their big picture modes and then go from there. That would be one of the easier things to do. But this entire project isn't all coming up roses, in my opinion. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest battles we're going to be seeing with this handheld and Xbox moving into this space is going to be price, because the Asus ROG Ally aren't priced in a very, let's say, properly competitive space compared to the Steam Deck. Even though they are more powerful systems, the thing is, a lot of people are not going to be willing to spend $700 to $800 on a handheld device. Not to mention a lot of the actual feedback Asus has been dealing with, or the exposés that's been happening recently, or their really hard return policies like we've talked about before. Asus really has to come in clutch with this device, and Microsoft has to put out a proper update to really make this match. What I would love this device to be priced at is $599. At the basically high end. Yeah, I don't think it should be more than $599 when you're looking at something from 512 gigabytes to a terabyte of storage, and it needs to be slightly above in performance to the actual Steam Deck that we have right now for $549. If you want to go ahead and add a $50 increase from $549 to $599, I could see that still being in the ballpark of those two devices, but the thing is, that's going to be their main competitor, is the Steam Deck. And if they can say, hey, here's every game you can play on Windows through our big picture mode in our space, and never worry about anti-cheat or Linux compatibility or anything along that nature, you could make it at $599 if the hardware and the actual space for the system were correct. I also feel like it should be an OLED device. I don't think LCD would work for that kind of price range. And I'm going to be honest about this. I know people want to say 1080p would be the way to go. I would also love a 1080p screen. If they did 720p or 800p, I'd be fine with that too. Yeah, I know, hot take on that one. Everybody wants a bigger screen, everybody wants a higher resolution, but the thing is, when you play a game on a handheld device, you got to make some compromises, because the thing is, battery life as well as frame rate are going to be far different at 720p or 800p than it would be at 1080p. And losing a lot of that battery and performance because you want to increase resolution, when the actual difference of what you're seeing compared to the actual, 7-inch screen could be a big differential between price to performance as well. Seeing as how the fact that these are battery powered devices, and the last thing I want to do is have a wall outlet next to me every single time I want to play a video game for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Speaking of battery life, it's going to have to be a little bit better than the Steam Deck as well. Having 2-hour battery life or about an hour and a half battery life in most AAA games really has a difficult time frame on it. But the thing is, if I can have a lot of TDP controls, if I can adjust a lot of things directly and have fan controls like I do with the Steam Deck, things may be a little bit better as well for the customer and consumer. The thing is, though, there are too many questions we don't have answers to. And really, Asus not being the best partner, in my opinion, to choose from is also a tough call as well. If the pricing is too high, if the performance is not where it needs to be or is trying to push too much, or even then, if I don't have enough ability to customize what I'm looking for on their actual Xbox big picture mode or even desktop mode, this thing could fall short of what it actually needs to be. Personally, I really hope for the best, but I'm kind of expecting a meh kind of release, but hopefully I'm wrong about that. I'd rather be wrong about these kinds of things than anything else. But I feel like if Asus still tries to price it the same price as the ROG Ally, or even above the ROG Ally X or in that same ballpark, I'd basically consider this thing to be DOA. Just flat out 100%. I wouldn't even touch it. I wouldn't even want to buy it. I would just still stick to the Steam Deck and work on it from that end. That I got this for $400 at the most when I first bought it, and I just slapped an SSD in there. And honestly, it's a really hard sell. If they don't provide a good reason to buy that handheld instead of a Steam Deck, then it's going to be a difficult thing either way. Even with having the ability to have Windows and play many games that have lots of kernel anti-cheat on there, it still wouldn't be enough, in my opinion, to sway a lot of customers over. Hopefully, Xbox can really talk Asus down into what the price should be, and I think that $599 mark is going to be the sweet spot if they want to do a 1TB OLED screen, 720p, 800p in that space. I know everybody wants 1080p like I said before, but I feel like price to performance and power consumption, that's going to be a lot more difficult to actually put around than it would be just to get a low resolution screen. Yeah, I know, not the hottest take I've ever had, but I feel like after being with the Steam Deck for so long, trying to push 1080p on a battery-powered device, at the fact that right now we can't juice these things for that long, is not going to be a good experience overall trying to find an outlet every 45 minutes. That's just my take though. If Asus can fix a lot of their return policies, launch everything basically clean, not bog everything down with Asus Armory Crate on this Keenan handheld, have Xbox and Microsoft properly implement a good tablet and or handheld and desktop mode for this, taking a lot of pages from Valve and Steam directly, you could have a good contender on your hands. Like I said before though, there's too many questions that we don't have answers to, and we don't see a lot of the performance that we're seeing right now. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'm kind of excited about this. I want to see what comes through, and hopefully we get to do a lot of comparisons between the Steam Deck and the Xbox handhelds and see which one performs better, which one is still long in the tooth, and which ones could still last the test of time until the next version comes out. So it's going to be kind of wild to see what we can do on the channel with these two devices. Now, if you want to see more of this kind of content, more hot takes about the gaming industry and things like that with me directly, more gaming news, PC port reviews, Steam Deck videos, and hopefully Xbox Keenan videos and handheld videos too, as well as fanboy content and live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 79,000 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access or remotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. And if you don't want to spend a buck, don't sweat it. Every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, the live streams here are insane. Chat runs the entire show, and it's going to be a wild ride, trust me. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time. Peace!